This is Jeff from WT Futures, back again with another video, and today I'm going to take you a walk through the Breakout screener version 2, and I'll take you through every feature, every setting. I'll demo the alert system, and if you do have any other questions, you can hit us up on Twitter or over on the Discord, and I'll do everything I can to get you up and running. Now, before we start, I'm not a financial advisor. All content is for educational purposes only. Trading is risky, and I recommend not trading at all. But if you are going to trade, then I recommend being extremely selective about the pairs that you choose to trade. Um, Now, because there are 40 pairs being monitored in this group, it can take anywhere from 15 to 45 seconds to load. And so when I change settings throughout the demo, there will be a little load time as it refreshes. So when I make a change, during the demo, I'll most likely edit the clip and remove those delays. So if you notice that the speed of my system is running a little quicker than yours, it's just because I've edited out those delays. All right, let's get into it. Now, I'm going to move fairly fast. I apologize if it's a little quick, but I know that most people watching this will be at a medium to high skill level, and you can pause and ask any questions over on Twitter or Discord. So here we go. We arrive at wtfutures.net. We'll click Access Breakout Screener V2, enter your first name, last name, email, Tradingview ID, and click Submit. Then as fast as we can, we'll set you up within Tradingview, and we'll send you an email as soon as your account's ready to go, and which will definitely be within 24 hours, usually within a few minutes, just depending when you get in contact. And once you have filled in this form, pop over and join the Discord, and that's where everyone will be able to get together, talk, share ideas, and I suspect we're going to see some pretty awesome things happening over here in the Discord once we build up the numbers. So let's get into it. So you've registered, we've activated your account, and you're now ready to load the indicator for the first time. So I recommend pulling up a Bitcoin chart, fresh Bitcoin chart on a daily chart, and let's load the indicator. So we pop up to Indicators, Invite Only Scripts, and this is what you're looking for, Breakout Screener version 2, Group 1. And once you do come on board as a lifetime member, we actually give you a few other groups so that you can actually monitor up to 160 pairs. But in this first group, it's just the top 40 pairs. So there's Bitcoin and ETH and all of the top 40 pairs based on daily market volume. They're the ones that are loaded by default in this group. So there we go. I've clicked Breakout Screener, and there we go. It loaded fairly quickly. And that's how it will look as soon as you load the indicator. Now, I'm just going to double click over here on this gray area to pop it up full screen. In case you didn't know you could do that, you can just double click on the dark area to pop up one of your indicators full screen, and then double click again to return. All right, so that's what we're looking at. Now, the reason we're only seeing a few labels here is because TradingView does have a limitation of how many of these dynamically generated labels can appear on the chart. And if these were just buy-sell labels, for example, they could go back forever. But because these are dynamically generated, you can only have so many. And also, we can only go back so far in this group because this group does actually have a few pairs that are fairly new. For example, LDO is quite a new pair, so we just can't calculate moving averages and things like that going back too far on a daily chart with this particular group. If this group was just made up of pairs that have been around for 12 months, we'd be able to scroll back and we'd see the market average details all the way back. Or if we were to put this on a 1 hour chart, for example, the data will flow back further, and I'll show you that shortly. But for now, with this group on a daily chart, with it set up the way it is right now, we can see 22 days back, and we can see we're currently looking at relative volume. So the display data here is set to relative volume by default, and we're looking at the relative volume that's been flowing in over the last 22 days, and we can see the best performer. We can see the market average, which is the gray column. We can see Bitcoin's result because this is running on a Bitcoin chart. These little green spikes with the circle on top are Bitcoin's result, and then the green and red, once we get to another chart, once we see the green and red line here, that's the moving average of the market itself. So over here on the 14th of August, for example, Kilo SHIB here had a 2,500 relative volume pump. So it should have achieved 100% throughout that period, and it hit 2,500%. And we'll have a look at the SHIB chart shortly, and you'll see that on the 14th it had a massive move, and that was because of that huge relative volume pump. Whereas today, Atom is the winner, and as we can see up here, relative volume Atom has had a 160% relative volume pump. So we would expect 100% for these pairs to meet their average. So Atom is 1.6 times its relative volume. So that's awesome, and it's on top. The market, 72% relative volume. So the market, we've only got about 20 minutes to go until the end of the daily candle, and the market has not hit 100% relative volume. So it's been a fairly low volume day for the market. Atoms performed very well. And right down here we can see the top five and the bottom five. So sand, 29% of its relative volume. Okay, and no doubt it hasn't had a wonderful day in regard to performance. Okay, so let's start by having a look at some of these other display settings. So that's relative volume, and I'll explain all of these in detail soon, but let's just pop through and have a look at the data on the daily chart. So this is percent change. So we can see back now 20 odd days. In fact, it's probably giving us a little more data now. 27 days, there we go, and we can see the best and worst performer in regard to percentage change. So currently, Kilo SHIB is the best performer in terms of positive performance, up 6.98%, and CEL is the worst performer of the day, down 12.8%. Okay, the market here, the grey column, as you can see, it's barely moved. The market is currently up 0.37%, and Bitcoin, we can see there, has barely moved as well. And I can jump in and show you the Bitcoin data, which I'll do shortly. But as we can see, it's slightly outperformed the market, but it hasn't come close to the best and worst performer. Okay, let's jump in. That's percent change and average change. And this is incredibly important because some of these pairs, such as Bitcoin, I mean, look at Bitcoin's average daily change, 1.64%. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, I've got a real hang up about all this Bitcoin trading that's going on because it's barely moving. It's the third worst performer out of the top 40 crypto pairs. It's averaging a move of 1.64% per day. So if you're used to firing up a Bitcoin chart and trying to scalp and make money out of your 1.64% average move, just remember that there are people up here trading CEL, CHZ, OP, LDO, EOS, pulling anywhere from a 5.8% average move per day to a 13% move per day. And hopefully after you've started using this screener for a little while, you'll see the value in this average change. I mean, look at this, the market average 3.5% move average per day, Bitcoin 1.64. It's half the market average, and it doesn't even compare to the top pairs. Okay, and as we can see here, CEL has been the winner for how many days is that now? Right back to the 10th of August, 15. So for the last fortnight, CEL has been basically the pair to trade. If you're really day trading this for profit, you would have been trading CEL because it is having these huge moves every day, currently 12.53% today. Okay, and I'm sure you remember when OP was the winner, and OP had some huge run over here. What were we up on? Sorry, 13.67% average move for OP per day back here, and it slowly pulled back until CEL took over as the best performer in regard to average change. Okay, let's pop it down to the score. Now, every pair receives a score based on its average change and the amount of relative volume flowing in. And we can see that currently CHZ is on top with the best score. And we can see it has also had a great change today, but we've given it the top score based on the fact that it has a very strong average volume, and it has also had a strong relative volume pump today. Whereas CEL, who's received the second score, has the highest average change, but it actually hasn't received a lot of volume today. And that's the interesting thing about CEL. It's actually dumping heavily without a huge amount of volume. which is interesting. Most of the time we have a huge volume, relative volume pump, and we see that in the price change and in our scoring system. But CEL, interestingly enough, is dumping heavily on fairly low volume. From memory, I think it's traveling at about 50% relative volume, and it's still managing to achieve this huge dump. Atom has the best relative volume, and it's changed. It might look like it's fairly flat, but it has actually had about a 6% move through the day. So it's used about half of this volume to pump, and then the other half to pull back, and it's going to close lower. However, it still has a nice high score because of the strong volume, and it does have a strong average change as well. Okay, so they're the top five, bottom five pairs in terms of our scoring system, and this can help you put your watch list together. So this is one of the first things you do. Obviously, check out relative volume, have a look at average change, and then the scoring system here. You definitely want to investigate these pairs and just see if there's a healthy trade in there. The squeeze score. This may end up being everybody's secret weapon. The accuracy of this squeeze score is pretty amazing, and it's giving us this really is the starting point of a watch list. So SHIB has the highest score, 8.75, and we can see that it is our best performing long. CHZ, second best squeeze score, and that's great, 7.5% move. LDO, 8.2% move. And then Kilo Shib is in there as well, and CEL 7.16. So a lot of people, it was funny, I had a video out the other day and I showed this information and people say, yeah, but that's after the event, it's the end of the day. And that, of course it is, that's because we're running on a daily chart. If you run this on a 5 or a 15-minute chart, all of these results will be based on a 5 or a 15-minute candle. So if you look at a huge squeeze score coming through on a 5-minute chart, then obviously it's a move in progress. Plus, if you're trading on a sort of a weekly or monthly level, this daily information is incredibly valuable to help make your decisions about longer term trades. Or if you're viewing on a 5-minute chart, it's going to help you with your sort of 15-minute time frame. So just fire up the screener on a time frame lower than you'd like to trade, and it's going to show you very relevant data that's going to be pushing price based on the time frame that you like to trade on. Okay, so squeeze score, keep a close eye on that. The breakout score is just so important, and we can see EOS still has the strongest breakout score. And although it hasn't had one of the best moves today, this is extremely important, and you definitely want to monitor the top five and bottom five breakout scores, as well as the market. We can see the market is actually currently pulling back in terms of its market strength. We like to consider anything above 10 or below -10 to be consolidation. Anything over 10 is a breakout. Anything below -10 is a breakout. So the market's sitting here in the middle of its market consolidation area, and we have breakouts happening on any of these pairs. If you open EOS, CHZ, or any of these pairs down here that have a breakout score beyond 10 or -10, you should see some action there because there is some underlying strength. EMA angle. And this is a little tricky to explain, but the 6 EMA, what we're doing is running a 6 EMA over every pair, and then we have the 6 EMA running across the whole market. So we can see a 6 EMA across the whole market is currently flat, which is pretty interesting. It's a 6 EMA is a nice fast EMA. So we can see Atom is the winner. If you pull up an Atom chart, you'll see that it has the steepest angle 6 EMA, and CEL has the steepest to the downside 6 EMA. And I want to show you one quick interesting thing here. If I get this EMA and let's pull it back to say a length of 1, and what you'll see is that these numbers here now match perfectly with our percent change, because what we're doing here in this calculation is taking the close and then measuring the percentage change between the previous level of the EMA, the previous candle, and the current candle. So if we've got a 1 EMA, then the close of the previous candle to now is going to be the percentage change. But if we change this to, say, a 2 EMA, then now we're taking away, well, we're smoothing out slightly. We're smoothing out the chart. with an EMA, and now we're looking at the percentage changes with a slightly smoothed EMA. So we could pop this on a 21, sorry about that, a 21 EMA, for example, so that we're really smoothing out our pricing, and then we get our result. And as you can see now, we're looking at the result of a 21 EMA. And EOS has the strongest 21 EMA and CEL has the weakest 21 EMA. So I like to pop this on a nice fast setting of about 6. And again, and I think I've said it for just about every column, but possibly the most important of all is VWAP, the volume weighted average price. And what this shows us is a market VWAP. We can see that the market is currently trading below the average price that people have been trading over the past 24 hours. And we can see the best performer, people paying more than the average price, and people paying below average price. Uh, so let's have a look. This is actually really interesting. Sorry, I skipped a few there. Let's have a look at VWAP. And we can see this center line, this moving average VWAP for the whole market. And I'll show you this on a few other time frames in a moment. And this could be the best uh, way to measure market direction. And it's very possible that you should be considered only longing when we have a positive VWAP across the market and only shorting when we have a negative VWAP across the market. Let me pull this back to, say, a 15-minute chart. So let's say you're about to spend the day trading. If you pop this on a 15-minute chart or 5-minute chart, whatever time frame you're comfortable working on, and let's just refresh here. Now what I'm going to do is jump into style, and I'm going to turn off labels and tables, so we're just looking at this raw data. And we can see that the market VWAP was positive through this section, negative through this section, and in fact let's just compare this with our Bitcoin chart. And we can see this would have been a great opportunity to ride some longs through here, and this would have been a great opportunity to ride some shorts through this section. Let's try this on a different chart. Let's pop it on CEL. Okay, and here we can see these spikes down the bottom are the CEL VWAP results, and then this is the market VWAP result in the middle. So as we can see, when the market VWAP result pulled back, we had this enormous pullback in the CEL VWAP, and this would have been an awesome time to short through this section. We could have maybe even considered having a little breather through here and then continued the ride down. Again, we have a breakthrough here as the market VWAP is high, and then once it pulls back, we continue shorting CEL through this section. I mean, it was fairly flat through there, but you get what I'm saying. Again, we have another little breather, and then we had another nice run down as it collapsed again. And then the other day, CEL did have a pretty awesome run as well. And as the market VWAP, actually, I would have left this alone. We had market VWAP pulling back, CEL was high, so I like just to look for the confluence in the two. Here, market VWAP pulling back, and CEL VWAP dropping off. Here, market VWAP rising and CEL VWAP pulling stronger, and we had a huge run through there. So you get the idea. This is pretty important, and I really recommend experimenting with this VWAP tool, and consider longing when market VWAP is higher and shorting when market VWAP is lower, as long as you have the confluence of the pair trading in the same direction with its VWAP. It's pretty awesome. Okay, let's pop back and let's reset this tool. Reset settings. Okay, and that's a quick idea of the visualization. It's just finishing loading here. It'll just be a moment. And let's now have a look at these columns in a little bit more detail. And we'll pull up a couple of charts and have a look at the effect as well. So let's pop back to a daily chart. There we go. And we've reset. We're back on a daily chart. I'm going to put this on percentage change. There we go. And let's have a look at a few of these results. So let's start with Atom. It had great relative volume, the best, 160%, but it hasn't had a huge effect here. It's not showing up in the top five or bottom five in terms of percent change. So let's have a quick look at that. Atom. Now, as we can see, with these wicks, Atom did actually have a decent move. So from bottom to top here, we can see we've had a move of approximately 6%. However, it has closed with quite a small 1% move. So the relative volume, as we can see, these spikes down the bottom here are our relative volume spikes, and we have had 3 great days of relative volume. However, the current candle did wick up and down, which has left us with a fairly small move. However, we did get the move. We could have traded this. If we were looking at this on a 5 or a 15-minute chart, we actually had a 6% move there to play with. Okay. Let's have a look at SHIB as well. Second best performer, 128% relative volume. And there we go. It was all to the upside, and we're looking at a 6.67% move, or all up, including the wick, a 14% move. But we can see the daily chart, we're 6.67% up at the moment. And CEL is the odd one out here because CEL has had the best move of the day, 10.6%. However, uh, relative volume, it's not showing up top or bottom. And we can see CEL has had a relative volume pump today of 58%. So it's had about half its expected volume. So look at the relative volume down here when we had these green relative volume spikes, and that's when we had this ridiculous move, almost 200% on the way up there. And since this candle, we've actually had fairly low relative volume. We haven't hit 100%, yet we've had some really strong moves here. Okay, and today a 10% move with 58% relative volume. So it's just a bit of a strange phenomena today. Okay, one thing I'll quickly do as well before I continue through these columns is I'm just going to change the text size here to large and increase the size of this table. You can actually put it on huge if you want, and so you can view it from the other side of the room, but that's just a little bit bigger for the video, running that on large. Okay, percent change. Kilo SHIB up the top, 6.91%, CEL down the bottom, and the market 0.47%. Okay, so that's the end result of all of this data. That's our actual percentage change. We have 4 minutes to go until this candle closes, so I better just speed up a little bit here. All of this data will reset to 0 at the start of each candle, and then it will start to build up again. Average change, CL, this is our watch list. Watch closely for these pairs. This is like the accelerator for average change. So if one of these pairs starts getting extremely high relative volume, you can expect a great change. But if we get low relative volume, then we can expect not to see the most out of the pair in regard to what it's potentially going to do with its average change. Scoring system, we spoke about this briefly earlier. CHZ on top, and this is made up of the potential, the average change, and the volume flowing in. So CHZ, the system feels is the safest bet in terms of it's the second best performer with regard to average volume, and based on the relative volume flowing in, which from memory is about 100% today, we have the top score for the CHZ trade. Second best score goes to CEL, and then Atom number 3. However, our squeeze score is a little bit more directed to the immediate price action and relative volume, in which case SHIB and CHZ are our best 2 performers. And the reason we don't have CEL on our squeeze list is because its volume was just so low. So although we did get a good result out of it, the system didn't trust it as much because the volume was too low. Breakout scores, again, breakout score across the market is pulling back. SAND and EOS are the best and worst performers, and we have covered these other tools. So let's just jump across now and have a look at show all pairs. So if we wanted to see what the, let's say CEL, we want to know what the relative volume was for CEL, we can just jump into show all pairs. And we don't get all of the data here, but we do get to see every pair. This is all 40 pairs in the group. And we can see that Bitcoin, for example, has only received 72% relative volume. Its average move is 1.64%, but we've only moved 1% today. Okay, and again, this is like the accelerator. If we get less than 100%, we're usually going to see less than 100% of our average move. Whereas when we see, let's say up here, Aave, 122% of its relative volume, it should be moving 3.9% a day, that's the average, but it's moved 5.42% because of the high relative volume. Again, SHIB, 128% of relative volume, should have moved 4.5%, but it's moved 6.7%. And you're going to find anomalies here. It doesn't always apply, but that's the theory that we're working on here. That relative volume is going to have an impact on price. Now, the other bit of information on this window that we don't see in the other window is this number in the brackets here. And I will move this to a different location. I might throw it into its own column here. At the moment, I've just thrown it in here as a bit of a placeholder. And we can see that, for example, CHZ has, there we go, you can see we've just reset the daily candle and all of our data, our score, our percent change, volume, everything's reverted back to zero, and the data will now start accumulating. So we were looking at CHZ with this number here, 17. And what this means is that CHZ has had 17 days of breaking a 14-day high. Now, I'll just explain that visually because that wasn't the best description. So let's have a look at CHZ. All right, these little triangles at the top of the window, and there's a little number just up here behind those icons. You can see 17. That's showing us that we've had 17 of these little triangles. Now, these little triangles appear when we break a 14 candle high. So here's our first one of the set, and we can see that this little wick here broke a 14 candle run. It was a high of 14 candles, so we got a little green triangle there. Then this wick broke a 14 high as well, so we got another one. This one broke a 14 period high, so we got our third one. Then we had this little pullback, but none of these candles broke a 14 period low. So we just traded here within this range. Then all of a sudden, just here, we again broke another 14 candle high, and again and again. Then we traded within our range. Then we broke again and again all the way through. We broke all the way up through here, all the way to the top. So we've managed to make it since the 26th of June all the way through to the 25th of August without breaking a 14 period low, okay, which is the highest out of all of the pairs in the group. Let's just have a look at Bitcoin. So let's have a look up the top right, -2. That means we've had two candles here which have broken a 14 period low. So this one broke the 14 candle low, and then this wick must be just the slightest bit lower there, and it's broken it as well. Another interesting pair was Atom. Atom was competing with CHZ as the best performer for continuous growth with this run through here. From memory, I think it was 14 candles, and then in this recent pullback right there, we've hit a 14 candle low, and then again, and now we've just finally hit another 14 candle high. So that's why we've got a score up here of 1. Okay, so you can just have a glance at this window, and when you're looking at these pairs, get an idea of how consistent they've been with their run. EOS, 10 consecutive highs, 9 consecutive highs, and worst performer perhaps Ape at this point. Yep, looks like Ape with 5 consecutive lows. And there we go, all of these candles down through here broke 14 period lows. Alrighty, let's have a look at alerts. So we're looking at a 5-minute chart, and how long do we have left to run? Just a few seconds. Wonderful. So sorry, 5 minute candle is about to close and all of our data here will reset. And then let's set a new alert. All right, so jumping into settings. So we're on a 5 minute Bitcoin chart and I've turned off all of these thresholds apart from relative volume and I've set that to 150%. So I want to know when on a 5 minute chart, the first pair or any pair, but I want to know the first one to break through because it might be a good opportunity for a trade. So the first pair to break through 150 I want to know about. So let's set that as an alert. So that's all I've done there. I've just ticked that box, set my threshold there to 150%, and I will add an alert. And we just choose this drop-down menu, any alert function call. I will just delete some of this text here because as you can see, it's got this great big string of information at the end. So let's just get rid of that. And I might just call this one 5 minute relative volume, create. And there we go. You can see data is now populating. We've set our alert. There it is. And we're going to get an alert as soon as one of these pairs passes 150% relative volume. Now, personally, I like to run under proper battle conditions on a 15-minute chart with relative volume alerts set to either 300 or 500%. So there we go. We've just passed the first one there. ADA has broken through. So we get to see what the actual threshold was that was broken. So we can see that it was the volume percent threshold, which is the only one active at the moment on a 5-minute time frame. We hit 186% relative volume. Now, as you can see, it hasn't actually updated the chart here. I actually have fairly bad internet, and the refresh rate here for me can be quite slow, but the alert fired, which is wonderful. Volume 186%. Change, so far during this 5-minute candle, ADA is down 0.32%. Average change 0.22, and we've already exceeded the average change for a 5-minute candle for ADA. And we get our score. We're currently running -8 breakout score. So -10 we consider a full breakdown. So -8, it's reasonably strong to the downside. And EMA, we can see our 6 EMA is also negative, and our VWAP is actually sitting above 0. So there we go. There's our first alert. Let's just click OK, and let's get another one. So that was ADA, which is currently up to 228%. And it is our best performer. Look at that, best relative volume, and it's the best performer. So out of all the potential longs here and shorts, ADA 0.44. ADA is the 5th best average change on a 5-minute chart. We have the highest score, highest squeeze score, second highest now. And where are we here? Breakout score is one of the top 5 to the downside. ADA, EMA angle, yep, 3rd best to the downside. And VWAP is actually above 0, but that'll be on its way down if this move continues. Okay, let's see, how long have we got to go? Yeah, 1:30. I'm sure we're going to get another one. There we go, Mana. 5-minute chart, 154% relative volume. We're down 0.11. Average change is 0.1, so we've actually just exceeded our average change. And breakout score is actually still positive, but it'll be on its way down as well. EMA is completely flat, and we are negative on the VWAP. So at the moment, I think the best thing to do is to use this information, set these alerts to decide which bots you might want to turn on or off, or preferably, in my opinion, would be to look at initially at least manually trading using this information so that you can then open a chart, have a look and see if an opportunity is there. And to be honest, it's all about patience at this point because there's not a trade constantly available. You really need this strong relative volume. And as I say, I recommend, say, 300 to 500% relative volume on a 15-minute chart is what I like to look at, especially when we get a nice, good, solid 500% relative volume. That means there's a lot of attention on that pair at that point. And the run doesn't often finish after that first little pump. I often like to wait for that first big pump, monitor it closely, wait for a little pullback, and then try and ride the second leg. Okay, and there we go, another alert's fired there. So all you would now need to do is to jump into the settings again and decide which thresholds you'd like to be alerted to. So you might say, well, when there's a breakout score above 20, you might want to know about that. You could have a look at these EMA settings here, and you can see, well, zero point 0.5 is as high as we're running there. So let's say, fair enough, let's go with 0.5. Let's get an alert anytime we hit 0.5. VWAP, -6 is the highest there at the moment. So we don't want too many alerts. I'm going overboard a little here, but let's say let's say, oh, let's say 10. So if we get a really strong VWAP move, score. Score currently the highest 2.27, so let's say we get an alert with a score of 3, and then we might say, well, if on a 15-minute chart, as soon as something breaks 1%, we know it's moving pretty well. It's moved a whole percent in a 15-minute chart. We want to know what that is. We want to know what that pair was so we can see if it has any more life in it. And then you would obviously need to reset that alert. So you could just jump back into the existing alert here, and we could just change this to breakout screener, any alert function call, and this would now be 15, save. And there we go, the alert's now set up on the 15-minute chart with all of those additional parameters. So I hope that was helpful. This is just the first video walkthrough. I haven't actually covered everything that I wanted to cover. There's quite a bit more to it, but I'll put together another video and we'll run through things in a second more advanced session. So hope that was helpful. Please pop across to the Discord and ask any questions. And I wish you all the best with your trading. So thanks for joining us for the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.